Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bella Gamer, and today we're not talking about a new archetype. We're actually talking about an old archetype that has been further expanded here in Howl the Wild, and that's going to be the Beastmaster archetype. Now, as far as I'm aware, in Player Core 2, we're going to get Beastmaster again. So I don't know if I should link my video that I've already done or if I should wait until the Player Core 2, but I wanted to talk about the Beastmaster expansion here because it's really, really good. So, you know what? Go ahead, check out the video above. There's going to be a link to the first Beastmaster video. Most of Animal Companion stuff didn't really change in the remaster anyway, though some of the feats might change, in which case they do. I'll be covering it in Player Core 2 coming this July. So that being the case, subscribe to the channel so you can get to see that stuff as it comes out. Also leave a like because honestly, this is the kind of stuff that I really, really like in Pathfinder, and I would like for as many people to see it as possible, and every like really helps that. But the Beastmaster, if you're unaware, the Beastmaster is an archetype that not only allows you to get an animal companion, if you don't already have one, but to actually get several animal companions, which is incredible. You can have up to 4 animal companions with the Beastmaster archetype. Though, to be fair, you never really get to use more than one at a time, or at least until late level, like level 16 or 14. I can't remember. One of those two, you get the ability to have 2 out at the same time, but you have to split your actions between both of them. So it's more just putting extra hit points and extra options on the field than it is actually allowing you to have 2 active animal companions at the same time. And if you're unaware, beast or animal companions are really, really good. They give you extra action economy. Everyone likes to talk about how animal companions don't get above expert proficiency, but that's fine because they're extra. They're meant to be an extra thing on the battlefield, and they are truly extra. Their multi-attack penalty is separate from yours. Eventually, they can just act on their own, either striding or striking an enemy. They're great for flanking. They're great for tripping enemies or grappling enemies because they have pretty decent athletics ability. Some of them do anyway. They're really good. Even if you don't command your animal companion, it's always doing something, which is just giving you essentially extra actions in the round. They're insanely good. And the Beastmaster expansion, what we're talking about today, is going to make them even stronger, which is absolutely insane. So let's cut right to it. Let's get to the feats. First, we're going to talk about Spirit of the Beast. Now, I was just hyping up Animal Companion a lot, but Spirit of the Beast is very okay. It's not anything I find very interesting. So what it does is at level 4, you gain access to the Spirit of the Beast focus spell if you take this feat, of course. Now, this focus spell allows you can cast it with a singular action as a duration of a minute, and you can cast on an animal companion within 30 feet. So not too bad, a single focus spell. If you're a ranger or any other class that can make good use of animal companions, like a witch especially, this is not bad, except one, this has the flourish trait, which I don't think I've ever seen a spell with a flourish trait before. I don't know if that's an error or what, and it doesn't make sense because it doesn't have the same, like, flourishes typically are very, very good action economy things that allow you to do something really, really powerful, and they don't want you to do it multiple times in a round or to stack it up with other flourish things. I don't know why flourish is here. Honestly, if I was GM, I would remove it because it doesn't seem like it does anything. But what it does do is you empower your animal companion to get a buff to their skill proficiencies, mostly, which is okay. I mean, is that worth a focus point? I don't know, maybe. I just don't think it's worth flourish as well as a focus point. That just seems like a lot of cost for not a lot to get. As you can see here, there's 3 buffs you can get. There's Aspect of Might, which gives a +1 status bonus to your animal companion's athletics checks, intimidation checks, to demoralize and fort saves. There's Aspect of Swiftness, which I guess it's not only skill checks, it's also saves. But again, that's not that crazy. Aspect of Swiftness gives you your animal companion a +1 stats bonus to acrobatics checks, stealth checks, to hide or sneak, and reflex saves, which is honestly probably the best one in my opinion. Because if you want to sneak with your animal companion, this is one of the best ways to do it. Though it only lasts for a minute, so it's not even good out of combat. It's mostly only good for if you have some kind of cover in combat. And then we have Aspect of Insight. Now, this gives you your animal companion a bonus to perception checks to seek, survival, sense direction, or track, or for survival checks to sense direction or track, and to will saves. Now, the bonuses do increase to +2 and +3 at 5th and 8th. And because it's a focus spell, it automatically heightens, so that's nothing you have to worry about. But I don't see the reason for Flourish. If anyone here knows why it has Flourish, go ahead and let me know. But for me, that just seems like a lot. Now, is this a good focus spell? Meh. I mean, maybe. If you're playing an animal companion ranger, then this is a good way. And plus, when you pick up a focus spell of any kind, you get a focus point. So technically, just by picking this up, you're going to have at least one focus point to utilize with this. And then you can, rest for 10 minutes and get it back. So yeah, if you're a ranger animal companion user and you just want to improve your animal companion in the round, then sure, go ahead. I think that's completely fine. It's just not that interesting to me personally. A +1 is fine. The +2 and +3 are really good, but it just is an action you would take in combat. I don't know, because then you have to command your animal companion, and that is 2 actions. I guess it lasts for a minute, so it can be useful. I don't know. I think this one's generally okay. I think Spirit of the Beast is a decent focus spell, and it just makes your animal companion generally better for the rest of the combat. So that being the case, it's pretty okay. I just don't know why this has Flourish. It's silly. Next up, though, we have an insanely powerful feat, which is Beastial Protection. Now, this does require that you have an animal companion that is large or larger, which typically in most cases just means you have a mature animal companion, which I think you can get at level 4 or 6. I think it's 6, actually, is when they can become mature. So, what does it do? Well, when a creature is adjacent to your animal companion and you, or I guess it doesn't even have to be adjacent to you, when it's adjacent to your animal companion and it attacks you, as long as your animal companion is larger than the creature, it just becomes frightened 1. Now, I will give the small caveat to this one that it becomes frightened 1 on its turn, and when it only gets it when it targets you with the attack. So it's essentially frightened when it's targeting you, but when its turn ends, the frightened will drop. This does have another caveat, 2 asterisks, that if this is an attack of opportunity situation, or reactive strike situation where the creature's attacking you when it's not its turn, then it's frightened 1 until the end of its next turn. It's a very strange feat, but insanely powerful. I mean, with that frightened 1, your animal companion is just nerfing enemies it's adjacent to, which is really good as long as it's larger than, which it honestly will be a lot of the time. And yeah, even though the frightened condition might just immediately fall off if at the end of that creature's turn, it's a really big nerf, and there's really nothing the enemy can do about it other than not being next to your animal companion, which if it realizes this, it would have to spend an additional action to do, which, might trigger your attack or your reactive strike. So Beastial Protection has so many layers of being interesting, and while it has some strangeness, there's not many times you can make an enemy frightened on its own turn, which does seem really weird. It's something that I find is fascinating. Next up is Nature's Precision, and this is actually a new line of feats that enhance specific types of animal companions to make them stronger using their own benefits. Nature's Precision benefits any animal companion that has either an agile or finesse unarmed attack, which is a good majority of them, actually. So, what does this do? When your animal companion strikes an off-guard creature with an agile finesse unarmed attack, it deals an additional d4 precision damage, or 2d4 if your animal companion becomes specialized. If your animal companion already does precision damage, this is combined with that precision damage. So this is really, really good. I mean, it's just extra damage. Of course, yeah, it comes with the caveat that the enemy's off guard, but if you're another martial character, that's really easy to do. Or if your team has other martials, then yeah, your animal companion flanking with them is just the smartest thing to do. So it really just nets just being extra damage, which is just good. So yeah, a very solid feat if your animal companion has either agile or finesse unarmed attacks. Also here at level 6, we have Tenacious Endurance. This makes it so whenever one of your animal companions, because this feat does give you access to multiple later, or this archetype does, when one of your animal companions is reduced to 0 hit points, if it isn't wounded, it can remain standing at 1 hit point and becomes wounded 1. This is a decent one. There's not many situations where enemies are going to down your animal companions, but it does happen from time to time. And in the case of like area attacks or an overpowering enemy just whooping up on your animal companion because their AC is not the best, then this is not bad. This is a good way to make it where if your animal companion gets into a dangerous situation, you can command it to flee and it can hopefully run away. In that situation, Tenacious Endurance does have some benefits if you're trying to preserve a favorite animal companion you might have. And in a combat sense, it can be good, but there's not many times where if your animal companion goes down, it might not just go down immediately again afterwards, meaning that it potentially just gets wounded too instead. Or if it gets crit, it dies or gets very close to death. I think it's wounded 4 when they die. So that being the case, Tenacious Endurance is okay. It's not one of my favorite ones personally, but it does have a lot of potential story stuff and it can help preserve your favorite animal companion, which makes it valuable to a good number of players. Next up at level 8 is Pack Movement. This is also an insanely good feat because it's great for initiation. At the beginning of a fight, you take 2 actions and you and your animal companion both stride, and if you end your movement within reach of the same creature, you each make a melee strike against the creature. Now, if both you and your animal companion have other forms of movement, like burrowing, flight, swimming, or whatever, you both can use that as well. This is really good. You both get to stride up and strike. This is essentially 4 actions for the cost of 2 actions. And technically, if you really wanted to, you could command your animal companion with your 3rd action on your round to make it do 2 more actions, which is pretty good. Though, more often than not, you might just want to take the action yourself because your animal companion, if it strikes 2 more times, is just not likely to hit. So, that being the case, Pack Movement is really good. And this one does make Flourish have a lot of sense because it's a lot of action economy shoved into just 2 actions. So, Pack Movement is insanely good. I think it's very solid, very great to start mini fights off with. All right, now we're up to level 10, and this is where we get more unique animal attacks or animal companion attacks based on what features your animal companion has. Ferocious Charge applies to any animal that has antlers, head, or a horn unarmed attack. So, when you get this feat, your animal companion learns the Ferocious Charge activity. It's 2 actions your animal companion spends to stride up to twice its speed in a straight line and make a horn, head, or antler strike. Now, if it moved at least 20 feet, it deals an additional d8 damage. This damage increases to 2d8 damage if your animal companion is specialized. And if your animal companion has other forms of movement like burrowing, flying, swimming, whatever, it can use those instead. This is another really good initiation tool for any animal companion you have, and essentially it just adds damage. Your animal companion needs to move to be adjacent to an enemy more often than not. So as long as your animal companion is far enough away, this one is very solid. It just runs up, headbutts the enemy, and does a bunch of extra damage, making your animal companion's damage very viable as long as the strike hits. This is really good. I absolutely love this one. And there are many ways this can be done in very interesting fashions, especially because I do believe there are mounted animal companions that can that have a horn attack. So essentially, you get to stride along with them for this whole thing, which is really, really cool. So honestly, Ferocious Charge is insanely good. Next up, we have Running Kick. This is for any animal companion that has a foot, hoof, or talon unarmed attack, which again is a lot of animal companions actually. And this one is also insanely good because this is kind of like the flyby version for Pathfinder 2e. If you're familiar with flyby for D&D 5e, flyby allows your familiar typically to swoop down, attack, and then fly up. Or maybe some other creatures have it now as well. I don't know. I don't play the game. But Running Kick does more or less the same thing. So your animal companion strides up to twice its speed to make a hoof or talon strike at any point during the movement. At any point during the movement. That means your animal companion can do a drive-by, can run right by an enemy, and hopefully the enemy doesn't have reactive strike, but then it can strike, making your animal companion be a lot harder to deal with because the enemy will oftentimes need to stride or some other action to get up to your animal companion if they want to attack them. Now, this movement doesn't provoke reactions from a creature damaged by the strike. So even if the creature does have reactive strike, if they take damage, they can't deal damage to your animal companion, which is really good. So overall, Running Kick is insanely good. And I guess I didn't mention this before, but it's an activity, same as the last one. So your animal companion just does this when you command it to do so. And this one can be done far more often than I would even say the Ferocious Charge can, because honestly, it's just an animal companion moving, striking, moving, striking. Not good for if you want your animal companion to flank or do any other kind of actions, but it's really good if you're afraid of your animal companion taking a bunch of damage and keeping your animal companion out of harm's way. So I really, really like Running Kick. Also here at level 10, we have Sinking Jaws. This is for any animal companion that has a jaw or fang attack, which is a lot of them, funny enough. So that being the case, your animal learns the Sinking Jaws activity. It's a one action activity, unlike the other two that were two actions. And it does require that your animal companion is currently grabbed or restrained a foe with its mouth parts typically. And what this does is insane. So the foe, when your animal companion uses this action, the foe takes piercing damage equal to your animal companion's level plus strength modifier. That's insane because your animal companion's level is the same as yours. So typically at level 10, when you're selecting this, your animal companion is doing 14, 15 damage as an additional extra action with no need to hit or anything like that. This can replace the entire need for your animal companion to strike as long as your animal companion is spending every round, re-upping its grab on an enemy, which it could fail, and then potentially striking and then dealing damage with the Sinking Jaw attack. It's really, really good. This is really good for wolf companions, really good for all kinds of animal companions, really. I think this one is just, it's good. I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say other than it's just really, really good. Animal companions are so busted now. It's so good. Also, another level 10 feat, we have Sweeping Tail, where your animal learns the Sweeping Tail activity. Now, I don't know how many animal companions have like a tail attack. It's probably not too many, but it's not that uncommon. What this one does is for two actions, your animal companion makes two tail strikes against different creatures within its reach, increasing your multi-attack penalty as normal. On a hit, it pushes the target back 5 feet or 10 feet on critical hit. This is forced movement. This is really good for spacing enemies out, getting them away from your animal companion, which can be really good. And as well, it can split up some pretty, like, enemies are really nasty, especially when they're close together. So a really good disruptor one, not nearly as good as some of the other feats here, just because I just don't know how often this one's going to come up in comparison to some of the other ones. But I will say it does have its uses, and it's pretty cool. Also at level 10, we have Vicious Rend. Anything with Rend is just good, right? That's just how Pathfinder's trained us. We see Rend, we know it's going to be good. So this is for any animal companion with a claw, fist, pincer, or talon unarmed strike, which this also matches along with Running Kick, which also runs on talon unarmed strikes. Something to keep in mind. So your animal companion learns the Vicious Rend's activity. This is a 2-action activity. It makes 2 claw attacks or 2 whatever strikes against the same target, applying the multi-attack penalty as normal. If both strikes hit, the target takes an additional d6 persistent bleed damage. This damage increases to 2d6 if your animal companion is specialized. I really like doing persistent bleed damage. It's really good. Now, a lot of people are going to complain that because they apply the multi-attack penalty as normal, your animal companion is not likely to make the second hit and thus not get the persistent bleed damage. And I say, phooey, I say, fool, you don't understand. If your animal companion is just going to be commanded to make 2 strikes anyway, you might as well give them a chance to make the enemy bleed if they strike successfully twice. Also, with all the ways we can nerf AC in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, I hate that people keep bringing up it's not likely to hit, the attack bonus isn't as high. There's so many ways we can nerf AC into the ground to make it where even casters can hit regularly. So Vicious Rend I don't think is too far of a stretch, in my opinion. So that being the case, I think it's really good. I don't think it's necessarily as insanely good as some of the other ones we saw, like the Jaw Strike one, but I think it's really, really good. All right, at level 12, we have Billowing Wings, which is another type of boost, but it's not an activity boost like we just saw at the level 10 feats. This one gives any animal companion that has wings a range strike attack that deals a d4 bludgeoning damage with a range of 30 feet and has the air and propulsive traits. So propulsive can be really good, but the damage is not really that great. It's really good for an animal companion you want to keep, at a safe distance, and 30 feet is really not a small amount of distance to have your animal companion be at. And one of the cool things about this one is if it crit hits, the target is pushed back 5 feet. And this is force movement, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, I really like this option. I think it's really cool for anyone who wants to have an animal companion that stays more in the back line and, shoots wind at the enemies. Or a really good option if your animal companion's taking a massive amount of damage and you're trying to preserve them through the fight. So you can move them away from the enemy and make airstrikes. And if they strike, or if they get a crit strike, hey, then the enemy gets pushed back 5 feet, which might be helpful. So overall, I really like Billowing Wings. And I will say another little tidbit. If you have anything that increases the damage dealt with certain elemental traits, which I know exists in the game, this has the air trait, so your animal companion can technically do air damage to an enemy that can proc a variety of spells and effects. So, just something to keep in mind. All right, we're making a big jump here to Heightened Instincts. What this one does is Heightened Instincts. When one of your animal companions rolls a success on a saving throw, it gets a critical success instead. Really good, honestly. This makes it so your animal companions are far less likely to take a bunch of damage even when an enemy spellcaster is throwing stuff at them. So I really like this one. I think it's very solid, and it's definitely not a bad pickup. And the final feat we got here today, a short video, less than 30 minutes. I'm happy about that. We have Pack Takedown, another flourish action. This one is 2 actions, and it requires that you have 2 active animal companions. Now, this one does require a bit of setup. If you and both your animal companions threaten the same creature, each of you make a melee strike against that creature. The creature is off guard against all of these attacks. If more than one of these hit, you combine the damage from all the successful strikes and apply resistance and weakness only once. So this is really good if you have 2 animal companions at the same time, because you get a strike, they each get a strike. Because none of you share your multi-attack penalty, you're all going to be hitting at your highest ability to hit, which is just 3 strikes for 2 actions, which can be really good. And then if you really wanted to, you could command both your animal companions to then each do an action each, or one of them to do 2 actions, or you could take the final action yourself. I think Pack Takedown is very, very cool, very interesting. For a level 20 feat, it does feel a little wimpy, but hey, what you could do potentially is command both your animal companions to come and attack the same enemy that you're on. So they both stride up, and maybe they both stride up, and then you do Pack Takedown, and you all do a big Simo strike, which can be pretty cool. I do think there's some uses for it. I just think as far as a level 20 feat is concerned, it's a little wimpy. But hey, it's a good capstone for the Beastmaster in general. And yeah, that's the expanded Beastmaster. They made animal companions generally more powerful, which I think a lot of people are going to be happy with. I think a lot of people for a long time have always kind of underrated animal companions quite a bit, especially in late game. But for a good majority of the game, animal companions are really solid. A lot of these feats are really good and accessible by level 10. So I feel like a lot of players are going to get a lot of good use out of these expanded feats. And hey, maybe Animal Companion is going to be adjusted slightly in Player Core 2, or at least Beastmaster is. So we'll see. If you want to know, you know what to do. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me. And enjoy having your more powerful animal companions. Bye.